Welcome back to the Collective Journey. It is Monday. Abe and I are back at it, and we're super excited to bring on a special guest that we have. We have Hazel Tomita, and she is a Reiki provider. You guys, she is currently here in the KMC area. She works for MWR Yoga and Massage Studio at Pulaski. And this is someone that I met when I was actually pregnant, and I was in the yoga and massage studio, and I saw her business card, and I saw that she is a Reiki provider, and I was really interested in coming to see her to have a Reiki session done. And it was such a great experience. Hazel, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here in the studio and to just talk about Reiki and what you do and what your journey's been. So let's get into it.
Okay.
So where did your journey start with Reiki? How old were you when you found out that you had this gift?
Yeah. I don't know. I just know that there was a moment that I had kind of like a spiritual awakening. And it was that moment that I was on a journey of growth and, learning and self-healing. But when I look back before that, I kind of knew that there were some things when I was younger that I knew was like kind of different about me. But I guess at the time I didn't realize it, but just looking back, I kind of saw
what
that.
was that like? Like you said, it's like a feeling, or do you see something?
It's more of a feeling, almost like your intuition. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do believe everybody has it, but to certain degrees. Some people are more in tune to it than others. And it's something that you can learn to become more in tune to also.
And how is it that you would do that? Like, do you study? Like, what is it? How is it that you refine that skill set? I mean, I'm sure it's like anything, right? Like, I guess practice,
right?
Right? But how do you practice?
I think it's more just connecting to your own spirit, because there's lots of abilities that lie in your spirit, and we kind of, I guess maybe ignore it or, just don't recognize that it's there. And we kind of either maybe don't have guidance or don't have any experiences that lead us to wanting to hone in on those experiences, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Okay.
So how did you get to where you knew that this was something that you wanted to do for a living?
I hit a low point in my mental health, and I kind of knew that something was missing. Like, I wasn't happy, but I didn't know why. I was looking for something, but had no idea what I was looking for. Like, I just knew that there was something more to life. Like, my routine life was becoming so, like, just uninspiring. I just, I was like, this can't be life. Like, God didn't put us on this earth for us to just get up, go to work, come home, and do it all over again, and I was like, this can't be it. And so I was not in a good place, mental health. And like I said, I was looking for something, and I guess that's, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears or something like that. So I feel like I was ready for something, and things kind of happened. And I wasn't necessarily looking into doing this as a career. I was more looking at how can I get better? How can I feel good about life? And things kind of just went from there.
When the universe aligned you.
Exactly.
Because I feel like you never know. You always think as a kid, right, that you're going to grow up and you're going to do this and that's going to be it from here on out throughout your career. And then, you grow up and you realize like, oh, all your expectations really have to go out the door because you have no control over these things in life, and they take you through, you go through the ups and downs, and then you end up in places, I always say, that you never knew that you would end up.
Right.
So I think that's, interesting to hear that I'm not alone in that thought process, and you just never know where you're going to be and how you're going to find your way.
And what's interesting is all the people that I've seen that come to Reiki, I feel like they're at that same point in their life when they come to me. Like, they don't know what they're looking for. They don't even know what Reiki is, but they just are willing to give it a try because they don't know what else to do, or they've tried other things and it just wasn't working and, wanted to try something else. So I feel like the people that have come to see me are where I was, like just not sure why I'm not happy, not sure what I'm looking for exactly, but just need something. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting too.
Who introduced you to Reiki?
Okay, so that's a good question. So that's actually how I consider my spiritual awakening. So, like I said, I was like in a low point, and at that time, my husband told me he was deploying, and I was like, oh no, like I got to get it together because our kids were young at that time. I was like, I gotta get it together before he leaves. Like, I'm not stable right now, and you have to be stable in order to endure a deployment. And so, as part of my attempt at self-care, I was going to do a massage every month. That was my New Year's resolution. I said, every month I'm going to do a massage. This is my way of taking care of myself. And so I did it January, February, March. So April, I wanted to try a different therapist because I wanted to try different therapists because I didn't want to do the same person over and over again. And then I found Felicia, and she was offering a Reiki massage. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, I had heard about Reiki in the past, but same thing, I didn't know exactly what it was. And so I was like, well, I'm going to sign up because at the very least, I'm still getting a massage. And I went for my appointment. She did the massage, but she did a Reiki session while she was doing the massage. And, we talked about what happened during the Reiki session afterwards, and she blew my mind. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't give her any history. I just I was like, I'm here for a massage, and she told me things about myself that there's no way she could have known. I feel like she really touched my soul, and
right. Exactly.
So it kind of stirred up some things that I felt like were asleep. It wasn't exactly it wasn't the awakening, I guess, but it made me feel good, and it made me feel hopeful during a time where I was at a really low point in my life. And so I kind of continued, because Felicia also is a yoga instructor, and I was like, I'm going to take her classes because she knows my soul now. Yeah. And so I took her classes, and I got the same vibe from her. She was cool. She knows what she's doing. And same thing, I still didn't know where I was heading, but I knew that it felt good, and I wanted to continue in that direction. And so that summer, she was offering a Reiki 1 course. So in order to be a Reiki provider, you need to go through Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and Reiki 3. Okay, so Reiki 1 is about self-healing. And so I was like, this is perfect. So Reiki 1 is self-healing. Reiki 2 is learning how to help others heal themselves. And then Reiki 3 is being able to certify other people to become Reiki providers. And so I wasn't necessarily interested in becoming a Reiki provider. I just wanted the self-healing, like learning how to heal myself, because, I felt like that's what I needed. And that is what I consider my spiritual awakening. That class, when I took that class, like something in my brain like switched.
Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't like what I learned in that class was anything that I've never heard before. Like, it was all common sense stuff, but it hit me on another level. Like, when I say awakening, I literally felt like up until that point, I was like, I had blinders on, like I was asleep, and something happened in that class and it just opened my eyes. There was a shift in my thought process. There was a shift in like my perception of things. So that was a very pivotal point in my life. Now, I'm not saying that like I was so unhappy and then this happened and then I was happy. Like, it was just, like I said, a shift. Like, it helped me see things and things that I needed to work on, in myself. And that was a process. But I think the biggest difference was just, I feel like I was a new person, like, the next day. So that was kind of where I considered, like, the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you kind of highlighted, like, the first class that you have to take is, like, self-care, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess you have to, it seems like in order to help other people, you yourself have to be like good to go, right?
Yeah. So if you don't know how to heal yourself, like, you can't help other people.
Right.
Like, you have to come from experience, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people, and not even like Reiki wise, but I see a lot of people try to give advice to other people, and the advice that sometimes that they give, or the direction that they give, it's almost like a projection of their own insecurities,
Sure.
and you kind of give, I would say, almost like that vibe, or whatever you're feeling onto that person. And I just,
For sure.
I think that's kind of pretty interesting that they're like, no, you gotta fix yourself before you can help others.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say like fix yourself, because I'm not fixed, right?
Right.
But at least know the tools and know like the direction you're heading and what to do. It's I think it's a lifelong process.
Oh, for sure.
But whenever things come up, like, you feel like you got this. Like, I know what to do. I've kind of been through something like this, and I can get through this.
So in a sense, you have to go through the self-healing process, and then you learn to build self-trust, it sounds like, from there.
Absolutely.
Because I hear a lot about making yourself a spiritual toolbox, to where you always revert back to this imaginary toolbox where you're like, oh, okay, like, I don't feel like myself today, so I'm going to make sure that, you create these self-care habits to where you're like, all right, I don't feel good today, so maybe I'm going to take a hot bath, or I'm going to take a run, like something good for you to kind of always revert back to, like, learn a habit. So I think that's interesting. What was the self-healing process? Now, how was that, going through that, and then knowing like, okay, when I'm going to come out on the other side of this, like, there is actually a light at the end of this tunnel?
Yeah, so when I took that Reiki class and I said there was a shift in mentality, it was, I guess, the awareness that some of our problems are like our perception of things, and sometimes just a shift in your perception makes a big difference. And so during that process, I was able to see, because I was saying that I was unhappy and I didn't know why. But that class helped me to see why I'm not happy. I was looking to external things to make me happy. I was looking to find happiness in my kids, in my marriage, in my job, when I should have been looking like within. And the reason I wasn't able to see what was within is because it was buried so deep, and that it wasn't obvious. And so this class helped me to bring some of those things to the surface, work them out so that I can let them go and I could see things more clearly.
Of course.
And one of the things I learned too is that everything that happens is neutral. This is one of my life philosophies.
Please keep going.
One of
I'm
my
gonna write these down.
all of our experiences are neutral. Okay, so what makes them positive or negative is our perception of them. It's our perception, our attachment to them. And you guys had a segment I listened to about generational mindset. Some of these things were like passed down to us. And I'll give you an example. It's kind of an extreme example, but it kind of proves my point.
Right.
So my mom passed in 2015. So obviously that's a negative experience, right? But if you kind of change your perspective a little bit, right? So death is neutral. Like, we know that we're going to die, right? Everything that's alive eventually is going to die. So death itself is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's neutral. So what makes it a bad experience is my attachment to my mom's physical being able to call my mom whenever I wanted to. That was my attachment. My attachment to the idea that she was going to be with us for a long time and see the kids grow up. So that's what made it a negative thing, right? But if you learn to, I guess, let go of that attachment, then you won't be suffering as much, I guess, if that makes sense.
Do you think that's almost like kind of selfish in a way? Like you want, and I'm not trying for your mom, but like you want, and even for me, I'm like, I wouldn't want my father to pass away because of, the importance he plays on my life.
Yeah.
I can't help but think like, oh, that's not necessarily doing him good, right? Because he could be in a lot of pain.
Right, exactly.
So that's
so changing your perception of that, right?
Right. Yeah, I never really. I mean, I've thought of it that way, but never in the sense of with people. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
And same with like another example is like the weather. Like Germany weather is crappy, right? in the wintertime, like in January. It's
we all know it.
In January is like raining every single day, and like I said, rain is neutral. Like, we need rain. Like, the location of Germany on the earth, like that's just what it does in the wintertime. Like, it's neutral. What makes it negative is our emotions to it and our perception of it. Like, we make it a negative thing. Like, I like to say it is what it is. Like, there's no point in like complaining about it and just bringing everybody's energy down because it's raining, right? Like, can we still hold on to peace even though like it's raining?
I like that.
I'm gonna have to write that down.
I know. I'm like, hey, get it in there, okay? I couldn't agree more because I know death is a very sensitive subject to approach, but it just resonates with me because I know that in our culture we celebrate death once they've passed. You want to touch on it?
Oh, so I guess for
Day of the Dead.
Oh yeah, for the Day of the Dead, you go out like every year. And I don't know if you know about Day of the Dead, but
Dia de Muertos.
You celebrate
Yeah.
Day? Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
So you always go back to kind of these people and you celebrate these people. But even growing up, for me, it was weird in the sense that we would mourn, and then like my family's Catholics, right? And they'd pray, it's very like dramatic, I think, like very dramatic. And then right after the funeral, they're like, okay, we're going to party.
Right.
And we're going to have fun. And I'm like, what happened? Like, and I always kind of remember that. And I'm like, to this one point in time, my great grandmother passed away, and it was very dramatic. All this, people are like missing them. And then it just went to like, all right, we're going to party and celebrate her life. And I was like, oh. So
we're not sad anymore.
Yeah. And I was like, so I guess it really is not that big of a deal, So
yeah.
I guess, it is all how you view it. There's definitely a mindset. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Give us more.
Keep going. My question that I have is, so when you did this shift you had this awakening to like a new lens on life, did anything conflict with your cultural background or what you were brought up with, to where you were like, maybe your friends and family were like, she's changing and she's moving towards a new direction? Like, did they agree with it? Were they supportive? Was there any, sometimes I'm curious if there was skepticism.
Let's see. So we were in Florida when that happened. So we were already like physically separated from our family. And I don't know that I necessarily went into detail about it with my family, because it is almost controversial.
Yeah.
Because, if it's not Jesus Christ, you're against, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I just from my experience and what I went through, I feel like it made me even closer to God. Like, it made me even more of a spiritual person. I feel like it, like religion puts you in a box, and I feel like this kind of helped me step out of that box a little bit and got to see that this is a way bigger thing than just this box. And I didn't necessarily talk about it in detail with any family. I think I kind of just let my path and let them see the changes, I guess. And, and now again, like my cousin comes to me for help. And of course I'm like, I'm here, but they see that I am different and, just are curious, I guess.
Do you ever feel like that's, a lot of people would say that's like a gift from God, right? So is that kind of how you view it?
Yeah. But again, I think everybody has the gift. Like,
right.
I don't think that, well, I do think I'm special, but I don't think that, like, I think if somebody wanted to, like, they could also be on this level too, with their own spirituality, and if that's something that they wanted to do.
Right.
But I do think it's, from above, right? Like,
right.
like God-given. But I don't think that I'm special in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always just ask about that because for me, I'm from Texas. I grew up in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
And my mom is just like, if, like you're just one step away from just like, just turning away from your conservative religious roots that we raised you in, because I do feel very spiritual.
Yeah.
And I know we had that conversation when I first met you, that a lot of things that we discussed, I resonated with you on the same level of just understanding. And a little bit like you, I didn't really feel that until I was really just out of that world and just really embraced, I think this is who I am, and I'm not fearful of being different. And for me, I struggle with that. Just if it's not from where I come from, being from the Bible Belt and being from Texas, my family's like, we just don't understand her. She's just a little bit different.
Different, yeah.
So that's just why I ask, because I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, and then right now with the pandemic, a lot of people are questioning different things, and so I think some people are a little bit shy to get into different practices and learn about different things. So that's why I ask, because I know it's something that everybody would probably relate to, like don't be so fearful. And then I was just curious if you could talk to us more about Reiki. So what does that look like to someone who has no idea?
Okay.
Yeah, like how do you practice Reiki, right? So I know we talked about it a little bit before the episode, but you said you practice Reiki, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
So I guess I can explain what Reiki is, right? So it's an ancient Japanese energy healing technique, okay? So it's working with energy. So literally translated, so Rei, R-E-I, means universal or divine, so coming from above, right? And then Ki, K-I, is life force energy. So I listened to one of your episodes where you were talking about your dad is into feng shui.
Yeah.
And so feng shui is setting up your house in a way that the energy flows smoothly through the house. That's Qi. In Chinese, they call that Qi. So you might have heard of Tai Chi or Qigong.
Right.
It's the energy that's moving in the house. So we have that energy also. Qi, Ki. In yoga, we call it prana. It's the energy that's moving through our body. Okay, so this energy should be moving freely, easily. It should flow through your body. Now, once that energy becomes stagnant or stuck, or if it's not flowing well, or if it's flowing like too much, like high energy, that's when you'll start having problems in your body. You might have pain in that area. You might have some emotional, mental stuff going on. And if it's been happening for a long time, that's when you'll have your diseases and chronic illnesses. So that's Ki or Chi, right? So Reiki is the source of that energy from above, right? And that energy, if you think of God, right, is all loving, healing, like everything that you need, peace. It's the perfect energy, the highest frequency of energy. And so as a provider, right, I'm basically just the middle guy. I'm the vessel. I am channeling this energy through my body and delivering it, I guess, to the person through my hands. And this energy can help. This Reiki energy can help, like, unblock some of the energy, restore the balance of the energy, provide healing. It's everything that you could need in your body. So I guess that's it.
What does imbalance look like in somebody? Like, what is that emotionally, physically?
It could be anything. So you guys have taken yoga, and you know that the belief is that you are your mind, body, and spirit. And so if you're having a blockage, let's say in your throat, physically you might have a sore throat, you might cough, you might have like a stiff neck. So those might be the physical symptoms, but the throat chakra is related to communication. So you might have areas in your life where you're not communicating well somehow. So a Reiki provider would try to work out that energy, but also communicate, like, there's a blockage here. Is there somewhere in your life where, communication is an issue? So you can work on that on your own too. And I think that's kind of what we did.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of, I guess, realigning. I hear it's like I feel like in this day and age, it's almost like become a buzzword, like, oh, realign your chakras, all that stuff.
It has.
What does that really look like? Like that, just emotional blockages, and then
So emotional things, I believe that emotional things can present in physical form. So our bodies are constantly trying to give us messages, right? So, when you're hungry, your stomach is growling. When you've been on your devices too much, your eyes are like tired. And so I do believe that our bodies are constantly giving us messages. And so if somebody has like high blood pressure, their heart is like pumping really hard to try to get the blood to your body. So that tells me there's something going on in the heart chakra. And the heart chakra is related to love. And so we would kind of go over like, where in your life are you, is love an issue? Whether it's too much love, not enough love, and expressing love to others, or even yourself, self-love. So.
Wow, that's pretty deep. What are the most what are the common, I guess, I wouldn't say diseases, but kind of physical forms that you see most people carry some sort of blockage in?
In the military community, is the root chakra. So the root chakra is your stability, your sense of belonging, and like it's hard to set your roots down when you're in the military because you're always moving around and you're always, trying to find new friends in your new assignment, and it's hard to feel like you're stable. So a lot of the clients that I've seen here, especially, like the root chakra is very lacking, I guess. And what you can do with chakras, there's certain things that you can do, things that you can eat to help balance and restore the energy in your chakra. So lots of yoga poses are geared towards certain chakras. Each chakra has a mantra. You get to tell me you were chanting mantras, but each chakra has a mantra to it. So if you chant that mantra, it kind of helps you align or balance that particular chakra.
Can you go over all the chakras? Can you tell us all the chakras?
Yes.
In the body?
Or would that take too long?
It will. So I took a whole course on it, and there's a lot of information on it. Lots to talk about, but I can talk about it briefly. So, or in depth.
I do want to ask. So, people are always talking about your third eye, right? Mm-hmm. I think that in itself is like a chakra, right?
It is, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I feel like that's like the most powerful, or not the powerful one, but the trending one that I always see. Yeah.
So the third chakra is our sixth one. So there's 7, and you start. The first one is our root chakra, and 7th is our crown. So third eye chakra is like our non-seeing eye. It's where your intuition, that's where your, I guess, supernatural powers exist. Right. the gift that we were talking about, that's there. But it's kind of like your intuition. So we see with our eyes, but this third eye is being able to see things without physically seeing them. I guess that's your intuition, just kind of knowing things without actually knowing, like that sense of
yeah. So it's like your spidey sense,
yes,
right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So you talked about like a diet. So and I know there's a lot of chakras, right, or a lot of points in your body, right? But for that specific one, what are some of the things you can eat or your diet that you can kind of unlock that?
For the third eye chakra, well, I know root chakra, you eat root vegetables. So it's like
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're trying to, I guess figuratively, grow your roots so that you can feel stable. So your root vegetables, the vegetables that grow on the ground, like potatoes and carrots and beets and things like that, helps you connect to the earth.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff.
Do you, aside from the diet portion, what are some of the things that you can practice just day to day? So I feel like it's almost like very literal, right? So if you're lacking in your root chakra, you eat root vegetables, would you be more in tune to nature and, being out? Is that?
Yeah. Connecting to, so for the root chakra, grounding. I don't know if you've heard of grounding. It's basically walking barefoot outside in the earth.
Germans are big into it, right?
Yeah. I can't get with it unless it's a beach. Like I can do the beach, but
yeah.
So like I said, each chakra has certain things that you can do with it. So I would say like yoga.
Yeah.
I feel like yoga hits them all like somehow. Meditation is always a way to help with your chakras, connecting to nature for sure. Yeah.
And then when you have people who come see you, what do the sessions look like? Like how long are they? What are they usually? Can you get into how often do they come? Do they come back? Like, do you recommend, okay, like maybe come back in a month or 6 months? Because I know for me, for my situation, I was pregnant and I was about to give birth. And then you had just suggested that maybe I come back a month or so after I had had my son. And so I'm curious what it looks like for other people, because I feel like my situation was just a little different because I was pregnant and I'm giving birth to life, a new life. And so maybe just somebody who is not pregnant, just coming in and maybe they're just going through something. And then what does it look like maybe for an example? Sure.
So a typical session can vary. We can do 30 minutes, we can do 60 minutes. In the studio, in the massage and yoga studio, we usually block an hour. And that gives us time to actually do the session and then have time to talk about it afterwards, because that's the important part is talking about what happened. So it all depends. So it depends on how unbalanced your chakras are. And a lot of it too is self-work. When we uncover some of these emotional or these blocks in energy and the reason that they're blocked, if it's a physical or emotional thing, and it's working through those things. So we could do it on a monthly thing, or I've had one that wanted to come every week, just to kind of get going. I kind of leave it to the person too, like, here's our session and this is what came up. Like, you need time to process that because it can be a lot, right? It's a lot of information, a lot of things that, you want, maybe you didn't want to deal with that, you have to in order to heal. So it takes time to kind of get through that. Or as needed. I have one that comes, like if she's having pain or something, she'll come and say, can you help me through this and help me figure out like what's causing this.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I just think it's pretty interesting that you said you kind of have to have time to reflect on it, because I outside looking in, right? I've never received a Reiki or done a Reiki reading or, practiced it in any sort of way. But Courtney did it with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember asking her about it, like, hey, what happened? Like, what came of it? And I know she was like, oh, I didn't even know it was going to be like this. Sure. And I was like, well, what happened? She was like, I need time to process. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what exactly do you need to process? And she was like, she told me a lot about myself that I need to think about, and I don't know how to put into words. Right. And that was like really powerful when she said that, and I was like, oh, okay, like, and I kind of didn't really think about it for a long time. Yeah. Until one day she started talking about it, and I'm not gonna lie, I still kind of discounted it because I was like, why is this relevant today? But obviously it was relevant for Courtney, right? Sure. So, and then again, she just talked about it the other day, and she was like, I don't think you know how much this kind of affected me. Like, this was really big. And then now she's like starting to like verbalize kind of how it affected her, and outside looking in, I'm like, man, that's like she kind of, I'm not going to go into detail, but sure. She told me a lot, and I was like, wow, like, how do you feel? Do you feel better from it? And she's like, it's almost like the third, fourth order effects. And she's like, oh yeah, like this is completely changed my outlook on a lot of different things. And I mean, I just think the whole thing is interesting. And I know we spoke a little bit before. You said planting seeds. Tell us about that.
So when I saw, it's okay to talk about it, right?
Oh, of course, please share.
So when I saw Courtney, I kind of just say what happened. Nothing means anything to me. It's like, I don't know why this image came up, but I'm going to say it anyway because it might, like, spark something for you, because, it's about you, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so we did the sessions, and then a lot of time passed, and then I guess it's been at least a year, right? Or probably a lot more.
I'm trying to think. So Levi was born in January 2019.
He's 2 years old.
And it's 2021 now.
So 2 years?
It's been a while. Well, and then because I didn't get to see you as soon as I had wanted to. Yeah. And so I think I came to see you he was maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months old.
Because you needed a babysitter.
Yeah, there was, with trying to learn how to jump into everything as a parent, it was very challenging. Sure. And then I came to see you again. And this time there was so much going on. We didn't do an actual session.
Right. We sat and talked the whole time.
We sat and talked because that is what I needed. And exactly. You still, though, left me with a message. And I just remember being like, and I wanted to actually touch on this because it has to circle back to the seed. And it was just, we had a really big discussion on, there were a lot of things at that time that I needed to let go. And I just remember thinking, what does that mean? Like, what do I need to let go? And you're a new mom. And I was settling still here in Germany. And me being me, I just go to like the worst thought possible, which I think is what a lot of people do. And I was really scared. I just went home and being really scared. But I think from there, I learned that these things take time. Yes. And I think most people, especially in this day and age, they just want the quick fix. Where's the quick fix? Where's the magic pill? Mm-hmm. I can't deal with this problem. And I had to learn to just sit with a lot of things and get uncomfortable. And I was like, but I'm so uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. And I had to learn to let go of a lot. And I think a lot of it had to do with being a parent and navigating this new chapter and letting go of control. I found out I was a perfectionist throughout this period of my life, and I had to learn to let go of that. Yes. And then, like you said, I had to learn to just stay neutral and change my perspective on a lot of things. And a lot of things you had shared with me, it was like, Abe comes from a very similar background where he was raised with a lot of these values and thought processes, as I like to say, and he tells me them all the time, but maybe he tells me them on a wrong day and it just doesn't get through. And then it was like when I came to see you, it was like everything Abe had said, and since the beginning of time that I've known him, and then it was just like, for some reason I saw the light through you, and it was like a seed. So everything you had told me from my first session, and you had told me a lot of things that, like you said with your experience, you were like, you told me so many things that I was like, nobody could possibly know these things. And I was in a place where I had wanted to come see you. We had gone back to the States. I wanted to come see you before we had took this big trip. And then the universe, as you taught me, you had said something that I took with me and I want to share with our listeners is sometimes things happen to where you're late for a meeting or you miss something, and that means that it wasn't meant for you. Exactly. And you had kept telling me, it's okay, the universe just isn't aligning with us and it's not meant for us to meet today. Right. Me being a perfectionist and wanting to be in control of everything, that really stirred me up a lot. And so I remember you had said that, and I walked away from this session with that. And another thing I'd walked away with, everything that you had told me, you said, you're going to go through some experiences and it's going to be like taking off a Band-Aid, and you have to just be patient. And I didn't understand what that meant. And I didn't realize at that time, but I held in a lot of fear. And then it was like the seed just kind of grew over time. And now we're sitting here. This was in 2018. We had this conversation. And we're sitting here in 2021. And I'm sitting here telling you before we started recording, like, just how much has stemmed since then. And it really just grew over time. And I mean, one thing that I really took was, you really have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, stay humble, and have a lot of faith. Just know, like, you're going to make it to the other side. And I remember having so many conversations with you to where I was like, where is the light? I need to find it. And I know you spoke about the roots. And I know that was something for me being here that I really struggled with. And so I think that is part of the seed blooming, and you have to be patient. So I like that you said that it could take a couple of sessions. Maybe it takes, a few, but you have to stay patient.
Yeah.
Can you do distance Reiki?
Yes.
How would you do that? What's the most preferred method?
Well, so this energy, right, has no bounds, has no limit, it doesn't have like time, So for example, before coming here, like early in the week, I've been like preparing myself. And so like during my own meditation sessions, I would send Reiki energy here so that Reiki is already here with us, and like we're in good vibration. And that was done earlier this week, so like there's no restrictions to this energy. So if somebody wanted a Reiki session, I would kind of just do that at home, because essentially you need that person's permission, right? You can't just tap into somebody's energy without their permission.
Right.
And I would set myself up like I would if it were an in-person session, except that person is just not there physically.
Right.
That person doesn't have to be even connected by phone or by, video. That person could be asleep, when I do it. And that's usually how it is, because it's the time difference in the States, and like the people that want it are there. And so I'm like, I'll do the session with you, when I wake up, when it's my time, but you'll be sleeping. And so I'll kind of connect to their energy and see what blockages I can sense and see what's going on, and then we'll talk about it together later.
That's a lot.
It's the way of the future.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is the way of the future.
I love it. would you be willing if some of our listeners reached out? Because I feel like some of them are gonna want to reach out.
Yeah.
Would you have a problem doing that?
No, I feel like this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Because when I took that Reiki 1 course, even when I took Reiki 2 and Reiki 3, my intention was never to do this with people. My intention was to become stronger and gain more knowledge and more understanding and more awareness. But with that came, I need to share this with people. Like, I can't just keep it to myself,
Right.
I feel like I have a lot to offer, and I want people to feel good. And, I know what it feels like to be lost and not have direction and not know what to do. And I know that there's a lot of people like that, just normally, not even given a pandemic, right?
Right.
And so, even if we can help one person by doing this, then, absolutely, I am all for it.
So you said one of the things that you said you can't tap into somebody's energy without permission, but can you, I guess, sense somebody's aura or energy?
Yeah. Like, it's almost inevitable. And you guys can do it too. Like, you have probably experienced somebody's, like, really negative energy. And, like,
Right.
Yes.
what do they say? Your energy precedes you. It's like your energy is there before you even speak a word. Like, you already know what that person's about without them even saying anything.
Yeah.
So again, like, I believe we all have that ability. It's just how tuned in, or how much are you listening to that? And are you doubting yourself? Are you questioning your own ability to sense people's energy?
Yeah, I know Courtney's always,
I know he's looking at me.
Yeah. She's like, I got an intuition, and then I'm gonna tell you, and I'm like, okay. And it's honestly usually pretty,
Spot on.
pretty accurate,
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, tell me more, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird too, because I'll think about somebody, and I'm like, let me just text them just to say hi or whatever, and then they'll text back and be like, oh my God, how did you know? Like, I needed you.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, a lot of times it doesn't make sense. A lot of times our thinking brain tries to talk us out of it, right? And try to convince us that, like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
so
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
I say that to Abe all the time. And the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, I know that what I'm saying is not making sense,
Right.
but I promise you it's coming from a place of intuition.
Yes.
I'm just not able to articulate it in the way that I need to.
Exactly.
So trust me.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I very much read into people's energy, and now more than ever, because of how much I have just grown as a person, I feel like. And you know what else is crazy is, and I really feel like a lot of my growth happened during the pandemic. Like, it was a much needed downtime and pause that I needed in life to just sit and reflect. But I feel like talking about Reiki, it's one of those, like, best kept secrets that really shouldn't be a secret, that more people should know about. Because I feel like when I had this session with you, and this, I didn't realize this thought didn't come into fruition until much later, but I was like, this is one of those things that, like, you just don't hear about because it's just that good, and people just, it's like, it's too good to believe, but it's so true, and people really need to be more open. Because I see, for me, like, I take my health very seriously, and I see so many people, especially me being from Texas, where our diet culturally is not the best. And so, like, when you talk about, like, there's a lot of things that stem from having your chakras blocked, I think about that, and I'm like, like, I always kind of try to nudge my family just a little bit, baby steps with them, but I'm like, it always could be something more deeper that's going on than what you think. And I would have never known that until I came to see you, because before I saw you, I'd heard of Reiki before, and I was looking into it, but just very vaguely. And I know when I came to see you, I really had no idea. Right. I just trusted you. Right. And I mean, the minute that I stepped in to meet with you, I was like, okay, this is a safe place. And you had told me before, and you're like, it's completely safe to do if you're pregnant. And so I was like, okay, let's go for it. I'm very interested in learning more. I just feel like it's one of those things. It's like, it shouldn't be kept a secret. Yeah. We need to like shout it from the rooftops.
So what I
highly recommend.
What I think is the problem is, so it's an alternative medicine, right? So it's along the lines of acupuncture and reflexology. It's not backed by science. There's no scientific evidence that it works, because you can't prove it. You can't prove that it's working.
I almost would say that you could, right? Because people always talk about when you talk a lot, like healing frequencies, right? I think like they've done scientific experiments on how certain frequencies affect, cognitively people, right? And it's almost, I feel like in that same realm.
It's coming. I feel like there's more studies being done, but it's not being accepted by the scientific world as well,
Yeah.
But I will say that when we first got here, and I was doing some research, LARMC was looking for Reiki providers. I think they were doing like an experimental thing, and providing Reiki for, I think maybe their pain clinic or something. But when I called them, they were like, yeah, that's done. And I don't know that they got anywhere. So same thing. I don't think that they could conclusively say that, Reiki is actually making a difference for these people. Because it could be a placebo, right? That you can argue that it's just like positive thinking. And so it's almost like you just have to experience it. Like,
you have to do it. You have to become a believer.
Yeah. Or at least open to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's another issue here too. I don't feel like a lot of people are like open to it, or just don't know.
Yeah. I think the mindset is definitely changing. Like at least in American culture, to accept more, alternative medicines, Eastern medicines. I feel like even though people don't even think about some of the things that are doing are almost tied into a lot of like you talked about feng shui. Mm-hmm. People are like really, really in tune of like how their house is set up now and how things flow. And like I feel like some people don't even really like internalize or think like, oh, this comes from like almost like an ancient form of mm-hmm. some teaching like this. This isn't just something we kind of made up, mm-hmm. So I can't help but think we're already kind of moving into that direction, definitely.
And I think that at least the people that I've seen so far have tried the medical model, have tried to see like a therapist or, a psychologist, and it just wasn't. It was helping, I'm not going to like discredit them, but they wanted to try something else or see, what else is out there. And the fact that that we're here, that it's a service that we provide here. So I don't know. I just don't.
My mom went to go see. So my mom has a Parkinson's, right?
Okay.
And she went to go see like an alternative form of medicine. She ended up kind of getting like a Reiki massage from her provider, mm-hmm. and we didn't know that was going to happen. And she was like, "I feel better."
Okay.
And I was just like, "Okay." I asked her like, "What happened?" Like what? And it's almost the same thing. It's like a best kept secret, She wasn't really able to tell me, and then he gave her some like medicine to help her like put on her body and stuff like that, and that was supposed to help. But that day, my mom kind of almost like changed her whole mindset.
Okay.
And she was like, yeah, I was really depressed, but now I'm a little bit better. And I was just like, okay, definitely got to use these alternative forms of medicine, whatever they are. Obviously, they work. You know?
Yeah, and I see it as just like a tool. You know, it's another thing that you can add to your tools of things that can help you. You know, I don't want to claim that it's like the end all be all. You know, it's just another thing that can help. Because it might not help others. I don't know. You know, I don't want to claim that it like
right.
Of course, no.
But it's another thing that you can just add to your things of self-care, I guess. So.
Well, it's almost like maintenance work, right? Yeah.
And I like how you said that, because I feel like we need to say that enough that, you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy. And like you said, going back to, sometimes it's like you plant the seed and then, in time it grows. And it's something to refer back to for guidance or assistance and help. And, just saying that it's not a overnight thing.
No, definitely
not. It disappears.
No, and I always say it's like it's a lifelong process. This idea of growth and healing, and like you might face something like this before, but at least you have some tools this time that can help you get through it a little better than the last time.
So could you speak more on that? Like, what are your philosophies for that? Because I feel like that's something, and we have listeners from all over, but us being here and in the KMC community. So if you guys are listening, you're like, what do they keep saying? KMC is for Kaiserslautern Military Community, because we are a military family. So we always refer back to military, even though we have all kinds of listeners. But for us in particular, because we always have to stay ready and we have to mentally stay fit and physically stay fit. So, and I feel like, and we're always put in these different situations where we're away from our loved ones, and then we have real life things that happen to us. What are your philosophies on life? And I like how you said it's a lifelong journey, because for me, for so long, I was always told that if by the time you're an adult, you don't have it all figured out, then it's too late. Like, you should never be arriving at the same problem, which I know in some sense that if you keep having the same problem, then it means that you're not taking the lesson.
Right.
You're not learning the lesson.
Right.
But could you kind of like dive into that? Like, it's a lifelong journey, and what are life philosophies that you may share with other people who come and see you in getting through a difficult time? Yeah.
So you talked about things that keep happening over and over again. It's like, okay, like you got to do something different. Like, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect something to change. So change one thing, do something different this time. And that is, a small step. It's a small step in growth. If that doesn't work, try something else, but you can't keep doing the same thing. And then once you take that step, once you kind of grow from that point, that issue is going to come back again. And then, you can keep cycling, running the hamster wheel and keep doing the same thing over and over again. But once it cycles back, do something different again. So you're kind of spiraling upwards. Instead of doing the hamster wheel thing where you're just kind of spinning your wheels. So each time that comes around, do something different so that you can grow. And eventually that issue will stop coming around because you've healed from it. You've moved on from it, and you've learned what you needed to learn from it. So then you can let that issue go and then work on the other issue.
Of course.
So
That's gold.
And, I do believe that it is a choice. Like, happiness is a choice, right? So I say that, but so I don't, like, if you're going through something, if you're like going through a depression or whatever, I'm not saying that, just choose happy thoughts and put a happy face on and you'll feel better, right? That's not what I'm saying. And I'm also not saying that if you're depressed, it's your fault because you're choosing that. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, like I said, choose to do something to put you in a better place. Definitely, go through it. They say the only way to get through something is to go through it. Like, you can't go around it. Like, you have to face these things head on. So if you're going through something, definitely feel all the feels. Let yourself be a human and go through all those emotions. But at some point, you need to make a choice, that you want to get better. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, choose to do something different, even if it's something small, even if it's like, one massage a month or just any little thing, and build from there, like grow from there. And really, sometimes it seems like it's so overwhelming. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, or like, I don't know what to do. But those little things do make a difference. And then, just like that first Reiki massage that I had with Felicia, it stirred something within me. If you find something that stirs something within you, like, go with it, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, if it makes you feel any better than how you felt, like, go in that direction, like, and just keep doing little things in that direction. And that's kind of how I see that.
Go upward.
Upward spiral. So we always hear about the downward spiral, right?
Yes.
But we don't hear about that upward spiral as much.
I like how you said that. I was sitting there and I was like, I've never heard of an upward spiral. Have you, Abe? Are you mind blown?
Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it's almost the same thing. You could choose to go down or you could choose to go up. There's no direction for a spiral to go up. Is just you go up. That's it. You decide to go up.
And it's a choice, right?
Yeah.
It is a choice.
Yeah.
That you have to, a conscious effort that you have to make every day. That's why I like to reiterate that it's, and that's what we try to do here in this space for our listeners, is we try to tell them, like, it's not pretty. It's not every day is a walk in the park.
No.
Like, it's not this Instagram photo as we see that it's all aesthetically pleasing. And I feel like in our line of work, there's a lot, and in the workplace, it's a lot of pressure to be on and to always be happy. And when you're not happy, and we don't really get into it, but for our line of work, being in uniform, like, when somebody's not okay, like, you have to be concerned, because we do a different line of work, and it's really important that we stay mentally fit, as I like to say, because that's how we phrase it. And a lot of those things of staying mentally fit is kind of knowing and being comfortable when somebody's not mentally fit, and making sure that they're getting the proper help, and just kind of knowing that, it's not a walk in the park and it's okay, and kind of reiterating, like, there's a light, you got to keep going though.
Yeah.
Please share with us.
If you had to leave our listeners with one mantra or one,
Oh boy.
She's like, just one?
Just one?
one. Okay.
A couple?
Top 3,
Oh. So I did say a few already, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm kind of mind blown with the upward
Okay.
spiral thing, honestly.
That's all right. The energy that you put out is the energy you're going to get back. That's a big one for me. what your outside world looks like is a reflection of what's going on inside you. So if everything around you is just like chaotic and negative, then that's something inside of you that you need to fix. Like you can't fix your outside. Like a lot of that's out of your control. The weather's out of your control. Like, all these things that are the pandemic out of our control. But the only thing we can control is ourselves. And so I feel like that's a big one.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is that one obvious for me?
No,
to me, that's obvious. Okay.
That's good. That's good. I don't think a lot of people really think about those things, though.
Yeah,
They just kind of live in the moment and don't really see the bigger picture. People are always talking about the bigger picture, but I don't think a lot of people really internalize like the situation that they're in. And lately, I've been doing a lot of like stoic, reading and like quotes, and I'm like, a lot of it is like, it's bigger than what you're in. So at least that's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another one that I think is big is that I think you said it earlier, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like, even when I thought I was at my lowest point before my spiritual awakening, I needed to be at that point in order to seek whatever it is I was seeking. If I wasn't at that low point, I might not have been ready to, figure things out. So, maybe you feel like you're in a low point, but maybe it's setting you up for something, the next part. Because if you look back on your life, like I'll always look back because time is just moving so fast. Like everything led up to where you are now, right? So like the way you met, the way you got to Germany, like things happened in order for you to get to where you are now. So I feel like what's happening now is setting us up for what's coming, so that eventually we'll look back on this and say, yeah, I needed to go through this in order to get to where I am now. So I think that's a good outlook too. Just, it might feel like crap. It might feel really bad, but it's just another step in your journey. And, it might not make sense. And you might not know why, but it will make sense later. Just like, again, if you look back on your life, like the stuff that happened makes sense as to. And
You need resistance.
yeah.
Yeah, I read this. Somebody almost put it to me one time like this. Is they did this science experiment with these trees, right? They grew these trees in a perfect environment, and the trees grew perfectly, right? Like they were beautiful. And then they grew the same tree species, right, outside in the environment where there's wind, sun, hurricanes, right? The trees that grew in the perfect environment did one thing, is whenever they got exposed to any sort of wind in the regular environment, they didn't survive. They snapped, right? And the other trees that grew in the environment where there's resistance, they're strong, right? And they flourished. So I almost think of it, for me, I think of it in that sense. Yeah. Honestly, you need resistance to be strong, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then see if you can change your perspective a little bit, like how can you change your thought process about where you are right now? Because sometimes when you're going through something, it really just feels like the most horrible thing that you're going through, but you're kind of seeing it in a narrow field of vision. Like, see if you can step back a little bit and see the bigger picture. Sometimes that helps too.
Definitely. That is
So you got to throw in. No.
Do I?
No. So I guess with that being said, you got anything, Courtney?
I do. Could you tell us how we can find you via email? Can you give us your email address?
Yes. So Hazel,
Hazel,
Tomita, Tomita @gmail.com. So here's the thing too, like I do my Reiki sessions and yoga through MWR, or the Yoga and Massage Studio on Pulaski. So that's like the legit way, right? Because, I thought about doing it on my own, like on the side, but then you've probably heard of like the lumpia lady who like
right, I have, yeah.
Like,
yeah, we know the
So
story.
taxes, all that
right.
stuff.
So
yeah.
I didn't want to that I didn't want that to happen, because they told us that you have to register as a business and then you're subject to all these taxes. So I typically don't do it that way, just because I'm like scared to get in trouble.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
So I do the sessions through MWR, and of course we're not open. Well, I don't know. Maybe they're opening with the new restrictions lifting
Right,
a little bit.
yeah.
So I haven't heard yet, but once things open up, then we can do in-person sessions. But distance sessions are also an option.
So
Yeah.
you guys hear that? If you're here in the KMC area, make sure you drop by on Pulaski, the MWR Yoga and Massage Studio, and look for Hazel. And thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review, follow us on IG at The Collective Journey, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, guys, thanks for listening.